Good afternoon, parents. I hope you are all well on this Sunday afternoon, and thank you to everybody once again for joining us on this penultimate webinar for parents for this calendar year. This session will be about understanding high performance learning, and then we have one final opportunity for you to join us next week on the 5th of December as we look at pathways into higher education. So as always, just a few reminders, a few housekeeping reminders. These sessions are recorded and uploaded and shared. So if that applies to you and you wish to watch it again, or you want to watch it for a first time and are joining us in this recording, welcome. But also for the parents that are currently watching live, you obviously may go back and watch that at any future date and raise any questions you may have if something is not clear in these presentations. So the general feedback as we enter the penultimate week regarding these webinars has been very positive, and thank you very much for sharing your feedback, whether it's either in the question and answers on a week-to-week basis or whether it's via email. I certainly appreciate that. It tells us that they are helping. You understand the things that we're doing in the school a little bit more. And obviously, we will continue to do this after the winter break as discussed. I'll share with you a brand new calendar of webinars. We'll continue to do it at the same time. And like I said, because it's uploaded, that seems to work for everyone as well. So the question and answer session is open right now. So if you have a question or a comment or some feedback or anything, please do post that in the live event question and answer box. And I will do my very best to either answer them as we go along or at the end when we summarize this session. So this one is about high performance learning, and this is a very important session to help parents further understand what do we mean by high performance learning, why we chose high performance learning, and give you some more information about what we're currently doing and the work we're doing in school, so that when our children do come home, you can support them at home as well, whether it's a school day or a weekend, in developing the skills or the attitudes and the behaviors that we expect as part of this very important program. So what is it? It is something that we looked at and we researched as a school and found that it would be the correct tool, the right tool for us, Gems Founder School, at this stage of our journey, to help us move not just from good to very good in terms of inspection, which is one of our goals obviously, but to actually think about what's happening in the classrooms and how children learn, and a whole philosophy about school improvement. Now this is obviously something that we've been doing over the past year and a bit now, and we are starting to see the positive impact of that, and we're well on our journey. And well on the way to world-class status, but we just need to pause for thought for a second and actually make sure parents understand what we are doing and more so why we are doing it. So if you look at the philosophy or the mission that is behind high performance learning, it really does exactly what it says in the title. It's about that delivery of high level student performance, not just for one child or for a group of children or for a small cohort of children, but for every child, regardless of what their backgrounds are, regardless of what their start points are, regardless of anything. Now obviously there are so many things that factors in, but it's the belief, it's that aspiration that every single child in this school can deliver high performance if they apply the skills and the values and the attitudes and attributes that are part of this tool. So the next slide, please, Miss Mining. You will be able to see and read a lot more after this session about high performance learning, but essentially it was established by Professor Deborah Eyre, who, as you can see in the picture, has a very, very wonderful book, the High Performance Learning book for teachers and for schools. But you may be interested in looking at that, or even borrowing a copy if you wish, to read more about it. but it's highly based around research, and it's like it says here, it's a pedagogy-led philosophy, excuse me, that really looks at in depth how the brain works and what we understand about human performance and human capacity and capability, and then puts all of this into practical elements that schools will deliver to students, and with parents and with the school community. So in terms of the complexity, in terms of the research, it is highly complex, but Dr. Deborah Eyre and her wonderful team have really looked at thousands and thousands of pieces of data and researched this on a very significant level across many different countries around the world, and looked at student cognition and their cognitive skills and what are the most important things that schools can do and consider doing to achieve high performance. Now, whether we talk about high performance on an exam at the end of year 10, 11, 12, and 13, or whether we talk about performance on other aspects of school life, this all applies to human performance. Next slide, please. So we are looking at this over a 3-year period. Like I said about, it's deeply rooted within the past 40 years of research that teams have gone out and done. But essentially, we need to look at the competencies and the behaviours and the different ways of thinking when we teach children in schools every day. Now, I know, and I think most of our parents hopefully know, that education has changed a lot, changed significantly from when we were at school to the current day. And some of those things that have changed often confuse parents. They are hard to understand and process why we do things a certain way. So the goal for this session is really to help you understand how high performance learning fits into what we're doing and into our pedagogical approach on a day-to-day basis. And it's actually to, like I said before, thinking about how we think, learning about how we learn, and thinking about how we behave as learners, both teachers and students and parents, of course, as well. So if we just move on to the next slide, please. We can just talk very briefly about where we are at in terms of our development as a school. So in year 1, we were identified at the very start of our journey as a pathway school, with the second year actually making sure that we got our I foundation and were recognised as a high performance school. And then in year 3 and going on to the end of this year, hopefully achieving high performing world-class school status. Now, what does that mean? It means a lot of things for us as a school. We will see a transformation in terms of teaching and learning on this journey, and making sure that everybody, whether it's a student, a teacher, or a parent, actually buys into this philosophy and applies what we are learning and what children are learning on a day-to-day basis to all aspects of their life, essentially. Next slide, please. So if you think about it in terms of data and statistics, and for the parents and for anybody who understands that typical bell-shaped curve where we have a group of students, if you like, or a cohort of students that would be typically deemed as low ability, then you have a group of students that are average ability, and then a group of students that are high ability, all falling under this wonderful bell-shaped curve. We need to move away from that concept. Otherwise, students become just a number, and that is certainly not what education is about, and it's certainly not what we are about as well. So we need to move away from this bell-shaped curve approach within the classroom to fostering that culture and belief where students want to achieve the very best, like I said, regardless of many factors. And that's possible, and it's hard. There's no question about that. It's hard to achieve that, but the mindset is our starting point. That positive growth mindset, believing that we can, and your students can, your children can, and will achieve this, depending on where they are in each of their academic journeys. But that's the belief, that every single one of our students here can be high achievers. Please don't get me wrong, the bell-shaped curve is important in statistical analysis when we're looking at data, but the actual mindset of having different groups of students is important, but the mindset is that all of those groups of students can achieve high performance. Next slide, please. So here are the 7 very, very important pillars, and they're broken into 2 big areas. So the values, attitudes, and attributes, or the VAAs, and then the advanced cognitive performance characteristics, or the what we call the ACPs. And you can look at those 7 pillars and think about each of these individually and how that applies to your child or your children or the school, and actually dig a lot deeper at that individualized level, because all of these 7 pillars ultimately will help students become enterprising learners, they're advanced performers, and essentially global citizens. But they're complex. So if we just look at them in general right now, and then we'll go into a bit more depth as to which ones we are focusing on, that we feel are the most important ones. They're all important, of course, but there's ones that we really need to think about, perhaps more so than others. So the mindset shift is so important. If any of you have read the book Mindset, where Dr. Carol Dweck talks about the differences between a growth mindset and a fixed mindset, this is really, really important. That belief, that attitude that you can do it, that you are going to do it, that you will do it, and opposed to the fixed mindset, which is you can't, if you like, in children's terms, or I won't, or I'm not going to, or I'm not able to. It's so important to instill in young people that actual belief, for them to be understanding that in the world that we live in and the school that they go to, that inquiry-based learning, whether that's through research or independence, is so important. This is a very, very important skill that students need to learn and develop as they go through school. We talk about things like expertise development, whether that's through our professional development models that we have in the school, and linking to all the practice and training that we do with our teachers. Really, really important. Feedback, incredibly integral into what we do on a day-to-day basis, and it's something that we need to do better as a school, and that we are working on a lot to try to make sure that the feedback that we do provide to students, whether that is in a class, whether that is in a book, whether that is to parents, we need to improve that, and because it is such an important pillar of becoming a global citizen, or making sure that our students are high performing. So we need to work hard on that particular pillar for sure. The engagement of parents, really important. Hopefully these webinars are helping you understand the importance of how we engage with our parents. But again, it's something that we desperately need to improve across the whole school. How we communicate with our parents, how we bring them into the learning of their children when they go home on an evening or reach home, after school, or whether it's on a weekend. It's about that triangle that joins the student, the parent, and the school together. And we must do more, and we acknowledge that we must do more to work with you as parents to upskill everybody involved in this important process. And we've got to make sure that we work with students. We don't do this to them, if you like. It's not imposed on them. It's not just another thing where they can stick a sticker in a book to say that they're a hardworking student, or that they've demonstrated agility in their learning, or they've been empathetic. It's not just about that very superficial element. It's about actually helping students along that journey, along that pathway, so that they understand how they are connecting everything within HPL to their learning, to the values of the school, to the values from their family. These are the things that we need to get to if we're going to be a high-performing, world-class school. Next slide, please. So how do we as high-performing learners, how do students as high-performing learners behave? Let's break it down into the values, attitudes, and attributes first. So if you can just click on the next part, please. The first one is empathetic, showing empathy. Just this morning, actually, all students across the secondary school, year 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, and 13, were involved in an assembly, a character education assembly that talked just about empathy. So there's a perfect opportunity, parents, to talk to your children about what they took from that assembly, what they learned, what were the key messages. There is a beautiful video that is going to be shared across our school community that's been developed by some senior students that actually has captured all of the amazing work of what we have termed our frontline workers, our school receptionists, our front of house staff, our cleaning staff, our bus drivers, our bus nannies, our security guards, the clinic, all of these absolutely important and wonderful staff members who dedicate their lives, their professional lives to this school on a day-to-day basis, have all been captured, their work has all been captured in this video. And it's to make sure that we as a community, as a school community, help our students understand the importance of empathy and the importance of understanding what others do and sacrifice day in, day out, whether it's on a 24-hour basis through the night, our security teams, or whether it's our cleaning staff, or whether it's, the security teams, whatever it may be. This video really, hopefully, will help students understand what work goes in and why we, as a community, need to appreciate that. Why our students need to understand that it's so important when they get on the school bus in the morning to say good morning to the bus driver and use his name. Why it's important to say good morning to the bus nanny and use her name, and get to know them, get to know about them, get to know where they're from, talk to them, and not just on the bus. It's one example, but get to know other people across the school. So as the head of secondary, I'm asking parents for your support as well, that when your children do come home, please talk to them not just about what's happening in their classrooms and about what their teachers are delivering, but about their day in general and about how they've contributed to us and our school as a society, and demonstrated empathy for others. And that's obviously a very, very important value in life as well as a human being. Next one, please. So again, some keywords there: being collaborative, being concerned, being confident. And when we talk about society, we talk about the school society, the class society or environment, and the global society as well. Next slide, please. The next one is about agile. So in terms of showing agility in learning is such an important skill or attribute, should I say, that students need to develop. And if you look at some of those keywords there or key thoughts, about being risk takers, being open-minded, being creative and enterprising or innovative, inquiring about everything. So often we talk about helping students and developing students' reading skills, or that passion for reading, but do we encourage students to question what they read enough? Do we encourage students to question everything in life, and actually be inquisitive and inquire about everything? That's demonstrating agility or being an agile learner. So again, at home, not just asking your children what they did at the end of each day and what they studied and what they learned, but asking them to question what they learned. Can you take it a step further? So often we get caught up with what students need to know in school, the content, the curriculum, what's going to be on a test. But sometimes we get caught up and not place enough emphasis on what is nice to know as well. And I think that's a really important thing that we need to embrace and share and encourage. Yes, important, you must know this, it's going to come up on a test or an assessment, and it's just something that you need to learn as part of the curriculum. But what about those things that children are curious about, whether it relates to their favorite subject or any subject, and how they can apply those things to their day-to-day lives? So please, at home, think about that in two different ways. Next part, please, Ms. Manning. And then this one that I think is obviously very, very important as well, that we have got to be very careful as future generations come through, never to lose sight of the fact that school is hard, and it requires hard work and effort and determination and grit and resilience and that never give up growth mindset attitude if you want to do well. Because if you want to be a high performance learner and get the best grades and be very successful with your learning and get into the best universities, it is so important that students persevere, they show resilience, they don't give up. And we see that a lot in our school. And you know, it might be that you don't get the top grades just yet, but they will come if you keep doing it and practicing it more and more. You know, I have an office in the school, which is on the first floor, not too far from where one of our mini grand pianos is. And if you talk about hard work, our students playing that piano every day to refine their skills, to practice their songs that they want to perform, or whether it's on the violin or a musical instrument, or whether it's, you know, our students who want to get fitter and faster and stronger and are going out there and practicing all of this outside of school and inside of school. So whatever it may be, please let's never forget about life is hard and school is hard, and to become that real high performance learner. These three values, attitude and attributes are so critical in developing yourself and others. Next slide, please. We then talk about how they think, the cognition, the cognitive behaviors of human beings, of high-performing learners, the advanced cognitive performance characteristics. And here are the 5 that are part of HPL. So we look at creating and being creative, a very, very much higher order thinking skill, being able to take a concept that you learn about and developing it and being fluent in developing it, and actually what goes beyond that and how you can apply it to different aspects of your life. And that's a very complex skill to develop, but the mindset has got to be there, that creation and that evolution, or revolution, rethinking for that matter, so important. Next one, please. Then meta-thinking, metacognition, learning to learn, thinking about thinking, strategy, having that confidence, that intellectual confidence with what you have developed in school, all of the material that you absorb each day, and being able to process that and, like I said, apply it, but also regulate yourself whilst doing that is very, very difficult. But we have incredibly talented young people at our school, across all schools actually. But if we look at GFS as a school community, one thing that we've seen from the data is that, from the CAT4 data particularly, is that our students' strengths in this school are in their spatial awareness and their non-verbal reasoning, which implies that they are very creative and very inquisitive and are able to join things together. Obviously, most of our students speak 2 or more languages, and that is a very, very good indication of this. So let's embrace it and let's develop that, how they apply things to different aspects of their lives. Which links obviously nicely into linking, that very important skill. Often when I go into lessons and I talk to children, you know, and they're learning about something in geography or science, I will always ask children, well, how do you apply that to Arabic, or how would you apply that to music, or how would you apply that to physical education? What is the link? Are there links? And if so, what are they? And that is where you become, you know, you develop the abstract, and you let children imagine, and you start to think deeper about how things in life are connected, how things in school, how subjects are so intrinsically connected to one another. And it's quite fascinating. So again, when students come home at night and maybe they've learned about algebra, for example, in maths, you know, it's nice to talk about just algebra as a topic and a very important topic, but what relevance does that have to other things? Does it apply to science? Do you need algebra to solve other world problems? And the answer is, of course, yes. That's why we learn about it. Will it apply to everybody's jobs that they go into? No, it won't. Will students use algebra all through their life? No, maybe they won't. But at this school age, it's so important that they see that perspective and that they understand why we learn it, because it can open and unlock the door to so many possibilities in their lives. Next one, please. Another high-level thinking skill, the concept of analysis, breaking things into smaller parts and being able to talk about them in depth and to problem solve along the way. And this includes that ability to be very precise in what you're doing. So if you're talking about a big topic, whatever that might be in any subject, breaking it into smaller pieces and applying logic and critical thinking about what could make it better, what are the challenges, what are the strengths, what are the weaknesses, what are the pros, what are the cons. And too often I think we just look at the actual concept and try to tackle it as a whole. So this is about chunking pieces of information and breaking it, and that's why mind mapping and things like that are so important skills that children are learning about these days. So please, again, reinforce this at home, the concept of analysis. And finally, the next one on this slide is about realization. And this involves something called automaticity and involves that speed and accuracy of work that students do, and that are very important and actually can knock students' confidence as well. So we need to think about how we develop this particular ACP in our school, because at the end of the day, students do need to think quickly and with accuracy, but at the same time, not lose sight of all of the other things we've talked about today. So there's definitely ways that we can develop this skill across our curriculum and practice that at home as well. So that gives you an overview of the VAs and the ACPs, hopefully, and puts things into a bit more perspective, I hope. Next slide. So then we come across this very important term that is fundamental to high performance learning, and that is the power of yet. And if you look at some of those sentence stems at on the left-hand side, I can't do this. You add the word yet, that becomes so much more positive. It turns a fixed mindset into a growth mindset approach. And that language that we have to pay attention to when we're talking to young people, or adults for that matter, is so critical. So just think about adding that word yet to everything that potentially is a negative statement or comment or thought, can transform that. So I don't understand this. I don't understand it now, but I'm going to in the future. Now I might not be good at science or English or maths or whatever, not yet, but I'm going to be. So it's that resilience and that grit and that hard work and all of those things I just talked about to change the negative into a positive. And the more students hear this, the more they will thrive, both in school and at home and in their lives. So you can also change a lot of the language that we use. I've worked really hard on this as an individual in my sport over the past 15-20 years. I've really tried to think positively about what I want to achieve and how I'm going to achieve it, and not letting things get in my way. And that's what we're trying to do with our young people is never give up, essentially, and finding different ways to improve and finding different ways to tackle problems and making mistakes and enjoying making mistakes. Because if we don't make mistakes and understand that they're a fundamental part of learning, then it becomes very difficult for young people. So please think about this for a second, and when you get home to pay attention to the language we use with children, but also make sure we pay attention to the language they use as children as well. And every word really does matter. And the research suggests that as well. Next slide, please. So we obviously are working with other HPL world-class schools, both in the GEMS network and around the world as well. And these are some of the things that high-performance learning teachers say and encourage. Really, really important things, you know, whether it's praising that effort and that hard work and that determination, giving that more praise than the actual cognitive ability itself or cognitive potential. Obviously both are very important, but making sure that students are rewarded and acknowledged, praised and celebrated for trying as well, and having a go, like it says on the screen, and never giving up. And that sometimes you will learn through failure, and that's, as adults, we know that life is not an easy path. It's hard, and there's bumps along the way, and students just need to keep getting back up and going again and trying. And there's no better example than the past 2 years with COVID. This has really affected all of our lives, and particularly you can imagine if you're a young 11, 12, 13, 18-year-old, the challenges, the obstacles, the barriers COVID has put in their way. And it's so important now that as we try to return to normal as much as possible, students never forget that they have overcome one of the biggest hurdles that is going to be presented to them in their lives. COVID has been a huge barrier to learning. It's been a huge barrier to teaching. It's been a huge barrier to lots of different things, and we need to celebrate, you know, some of the positives that have come out of this. We have to, because it's not all negative. We have to start as a school community by really helping children understand that what they've been through has developed their perseverance, it's developed their grit and resilience. But we've also, as we come out the other side, not got to lose sight of the fact that technology also is not a substitute for human connection and human communication and for teaching and learning. So we're at a very interesting stage now, where HPL becomes more important than ever. Next slide, please. So I guess there's, if you like, a formula for high performance. If we can just put all of these on the screen, then we can talk about this. And we talk about that potential, and the motivation, opportunities and support that is needed. But if you think about it, like one of our teachers sort of put it a couple of weeks ago, think about it as a driving test. And I thought this was a lovely analogy, that for all of the adults that are listening today and that listen to this presentation, if you've passed your driving test, you may have passed it on the first time, you may have passed it on the 10th time, but you passed it. And therefore the potential for any person is there to pass a driving test. But if you think about the word yet, you know, I haven't passed my test can be very demotivated and negative. But if you say I haven't passed my test yet, it changes that into something very different, that you will be determined for more opportunities to pass your test. The potential's still there. You might need a bit more support. You might need a bit more motivation. You might need other things, but to have that, to never lose sight of the fact that you are going to do it and that you are going to accomplish it, is something that is so important in the formula for high performing learners. So, you know, nice analogies that we can share as adults, but also there's so many that we can share with children as well, as they go through their different stages of development. Next slide, please. I think that is the last. Sorry, excuse me. That is the last slide. What I would like to do now, as we try to do with all of these sessions, is first of all ask for the parents that have attended today to just pause for thought, perhaps put a question in the question box or a comment, anything that you would like myself to try to answer and help explain more. And obviously, if you want to have a more one-to-one conversation or a detailed conversation about this, please do drop me a message, and I'll be very happy to sit with you or a group of parents to talk more in depth about this. We do have Miss Florenza Spinola, one of our senior leaders, who has driven this across our school for the past year and a bit, and now the assistant head teachers are going to take this on across the school as we move forward with it. I can't see just yet any questions or comments in the question and answer box. I will wait a couple more minutes whilst hopefully you can publish something, and perhaps it's just a nice comment, something that may be in your life that you've not accomplished yet, or that you maybe an example of something that you did accomplish, but it took a little bit of time and resilience and determination. I certainly saw that. So much evidence of that this weekend as I was in Abu Dhabi, running the 10-kilometer race in Abu Dhabi, but also watching all of those 12,000 people cross that finish line, whether it was for the 2-kilometer race or the 5-kilometer or the 10-kilometer or the marathon race. Over 10,000 people had set out to accomplish something that day on Friday, and had put the training in and the effort and the determination. People from all walks of life, people with all different challenges in their lives, actually accomplished something very, very powerful for them. We've got one comment coming in from a parent. Thank you, and I'd like to read this out. HPL has been an excellent practice. It's highly motivating and encouraging to achieve full potential. I'm very happy and thankful about this practice since it's highly motivating my child. What a lovely comment. And thank you for the parent that has posted that. That absolutely sums exactly what we've just talked about. So it's lovely to hear that you as a parent are seeing hopefully the benefits of this, particularly that motivation, because it is hard for young people to motivate themselves in all walks of life. So lovely to read that, and thank you. I will continue to monitor the chat and respond if required, but that brings us to the end of today's session. Thank you all for joining. I sincerely appreciate this, taking the time out of your busy days and lives. Hopefully it's been beneficial, and hopefully you'll be able to join us on the next session in terms of how we can support our young people on their pathway to higher education. Most importantly, take care, stay safe, and I pass on my best wishes to you and your family wherever you are in the world. Thank you, everybody.